moved into my house about 7 months ago, and it was really messy. I don't have a lot of money, so I got a good deal on it. I had to clean up after the people who lived here before me. I hadn't seen the house before I moved in. There was old canned food and expired candy piled up from the living room to the kitchen. There was dog poop everywhere on the floor. It was awful. The house was very old and kind of put together strangely. When I went into the basement, I saw something strange. There was a tunnel dug out. It was not very long, but it had a small turn in it. At the end of the tunnel, there was a small, round room. It was really small, like a circle. Maybe a little kid could stand up in it, but I'm only 5'2", and I couldn't. The room was made of rock and cement, and there was only one light hanging from the middle of the ceiling. It reminded me of that big lamp in the movie The Brave Little Toaster that sings when they go to the store with the other appliances. It's similar to that. The light looks like a pendant. Then, I was using Facebook Messenger. I was sending a video of me playing my game on my laptop to my friend. It was only on my phone, and it covered the whole screen, even my time and notifications. I checked all my Facebook stories and open tabs, but there was nothing there. But this strange video interrupted my recording. I don't know where it came from. I've never seen it before. It didn't show up on the computer, only on my phone. The video showed a yellow building and a few other places I've never seen. So, me and my 15-year-old son were getting the attic ready for his room. It was always just used for keeping things. There's a small hidden space that we were cleaning out. On one side of the attic, there's a small part of the wall that had carpet on it. I used a flashlight to look inside and discovered another room, bigger than the one we were in, so we decided to remove the boards. Inside, there were wooden shutters, boards, pipes, and a lot of insulation. I noticed a piece of wood that looked odd, so I turned it over and found a Ouija board. After looking it up, I found out it's from 1939 and called the William Fold Mystifying Oracle Board. I didn't find the planchette that goes with it, but I did find a strange wooden triangle with some unusual markings on it. My 15-year-old son said, "Forget this. I'm leaving." Since then, I've put the board on the mirror of my dresser as decoration. Everyone keeps telling me to get rid of it and burn it, but I don't want to. I don't feel anything bad from it. I actually feel a connection with it. I'm not trying to sound like a character from a scary movie, but it's true. I also forgot to mention the strange things that have been happening, like toys making noise by themselves, or things disappearing and then showing up again. Lately, my friend and I, who comes over a lot, have been seeing strange things. But the first time, I thought maybe I imagined it. He appeared for just a moment. Then when I looked back, he was gone. But a week later, I was driving down a dark, twisty road out in the countryside where there's nothing but trees everywhere. But when I checked the rearview mirror 3 times in just a few seconds, there was a man walking slowly away from the car, not even 10 feet away. But like I said, there was nothing. He just appeared out of nowhere, way too close to the car for how fast he got there. He was wearing a hat that looked like a fedora or a bowler hat, and what seemed like a fancy jacket. He was walking really slowly, and then he disappeared. My 12-year-old son says he didn't see him or the other man. I'm not sure what to make of it all. I just want to understand what's happening in this house. If you have any ideas, please share them with me. My mom got a house when I was in 2nd grade. It was made in 1856 or 57, but I'm not exactly sure. The person who built it was a well-known doctor at the time. The house wasn't a place where the doctor treated patients, at least not that I know of. There was a hospital nearby, about 80 yards away, where he probably did most of his work. I've heard stories that the hospital is haunted, but nothing really bad. Anyway, that's enough about the house's background. So my family lived there in the early 2000s. I was about 6 or 7 when we moved into that house, and we left when I was 13. We didn't stay there too long, because it felt like the house brought us bad luck. We had a dog named Snowball. an American Eskimo dog. He was small and had fluffy white fur just like snow. Snowball and even our cat would often stare into dark corners for no reason. Sometimes I'd hear my mom calling me, but when I went to find her, she wasn't home from work yet, or she hadn't even called me at all. A few times, while we were in the kitchen or the living room, we'd hear noises like something rummaging through my shoeboxes full of toys. My bedroom was right above the living room, and the floor was pretty thin, but when we went upstairs to check on the cat or the dog, they were usually right there in the living room. We'd find my dolls and their stuff scattered around my room, even though the door was closed. Snowball had this habit of chewing on my dolls because he had a gum disease, and I guess it felt soothing for him. He didn't like being by himself much. His favorite spot was on the green couch, where he could look out and watch the street. He was pretty old and only went upstairs when it got chilly. We all slept together in one room because he liked being near the heater. Otherwise, he stayed downstairs. My cat did the same thing. She always stayed close to us and enjoyed sitting on the red couch where she could watch TV. None of our pets liked going upstairs unless we were there with them. I spent a lot of time outside, but I also enjoyed sitting in the office. I played Neopets, RuneScape, and watched videos on different websites. Sometimes, I felt like someone was watching me all the time, but when I looked around, I was alone. One time, when I was outside and knew my mom was still at work, I saw a man looking down at me through her bedroom window. I don't remember feeling scared of him, I just got used to seeing him. My mom always said, "Oh, that's just Dr. Green." I would wave to him, and then he would disappear. But one night, I woke up and someone was sitting on my bed. It was so cold, and they were pulling my blanket down. At first, I was angry, but then I got really scared because the person pulling my blanket was the man from the window. Then I noticed something. There was a smell of something burning. I woke my mom up, and we discovered that the microwave was malfunctioning. It had burnt through the cable and was close to catching fire. After that incident, I asked my grandma to take me to Dr. Green's grave. I used to leave flowers there for him regularly. Then there was Luke. Luke was mean. He scared our pets. That's why they avoided going upstairs. He always showed up in dark corners, and I couldn't make myself walk past him. It felt like if I did, something bad would happen. He was much busier too. Cupboards would suddenly open, stuff would fall off shelves, and he would throw things at us. In the middle of the night, you could hear heavy footsteps slowly coming up the stairs. Sometimes the TV would change channels on its own. You'd hear moans, and he actually heard us. I often had bad dreams, and I'd wake up with strange bruises, cuts, and scratches. This was also happening to my mom. We found out his name is Luke because my mom used to record QVC in the sewing channel on the VCR. I think it was QVC, and they were doing some craft thing. They asked the caller for their name, and in a strong male voice, someone clearly said, "Luke." Then the woman, who was actually the caller, live on the show, said her name and talked about the product. We thought the nice ghost might be Dr. Green because the man always wore clothes similar to the ones in his old photos, fancy suits and a hat. Luke, on the other hand, wore scruffy clothes and big boots with spurs. I can still hear those boots clanging up the squeaky stairs. Lastly, there was the ghost dog. I love animals, but I really didn't like this dog. It was big, black, and whenever it showed up, I felt really sick. And it showed up everywhere. Outside, in the carport, downstairs, upstairs, and especially in the cellar. I could hear its toenails tapping on the hardwood floors, and I would hide under my blankets. My arm and neck hairs would stand up, and I could hear it sniffing around me. Just thinking about that dog gives me chills. If you stared at it, it would growl and then disappear. But I only saw it twice. I heard it all the time, though. I also used to have nightmares about this big black dog following me everywhere. It was a scary dream that kept coming back when I was a kid. I'd be in the yard, and there was a creek that ran through it. It went under the road, and there were these big steel cylinders that let the water flow through. I could crouch and walk through them. But sometimes, I'd see the dog there, and it looked like it was guarding what seemed to be a kid's body. It would always scare me awake. I never thought to check if a child had died there. I was just a kid, and thinking about it scared me a lot, but I still remember that dream very clearly. Now I have a big black lab Great Dane mix, and sometimes he reminds me of that ghost dog. There are so many strange things that happened. Even more happened to my mom, and she has some weird pictures and videos. I even asked a priest to cleanse the house, but I don't think it ever really helped. But the folks who live there now have really fixed up the house. I've thought about knocking on their door and asking them about it, but it feels strange. Every time I visit my grandparents, I drive past the house, but stepping onto the property again makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm a 27-year-old woman. My sister is 26, and she has a husband who's also 26. They have a 9-month-old baby girl, and they got married almost 2 years ago in the summer. Right before they got married, they began building a new house. It's on a piece of land that's mostly in the woods. The land is on a road that doesn't have much traffic and ends without going anywhere else. Most of the land, about 16 acres, slopes uphill. The road is very calm, with around 10 houses in total. These houses are spread out and quite new. They only have one neighbor next door, which is important. Like I mentioned, they finished building this house less than 3 years ago. But here's the thing about the property. They discovered at least 1, maybe 2, old stone foundations from previous buildings or houses. Now our dad loves investigating history, and he found an old map showing there was once a farmhouse where their backyard is now. That's why there's a stone foundation. Dad has been there several times with his metal detector and found some cool things. Some were just regular stuff, like metal containers, cans, trash, and junk. Some things were thrown in by who knows who, but Dad found a few cool items like a belt buckle and what seems to be a woman's or child's sword or knife guard. According to his online treasure hunting forum, that dates back to when the farmhouse was around, in the mid to late 1700s. Now, onto the disturbing part. More than a year ago, my sister and I went out for drinks, and I ended up staying overnight. I was alone in the guest room, cozy in bed, but I felt like something or someone was watching me. It made me so uneasy that I pulled the blankets over my head and tried to sleep. Then suddenly, I felt the urge to close the closet door for no reason. I eventually fell asleep and didn't think much about it later. I never told my sister or her husband about it because they're both very religious and involved in church activities, so I didn't think they'd understand. That's the only strange experience I've had, if you count that. Now fast forward to today. She sent me a photo on Sunday, which got us talking. The photo showed her side entrance door leading to the mudroom. In the top corner window, there seems to be a smudged handprint. I haven't seen it in person. At first, I thought maybe the builders left it there, or it was there when they installed the door, so I told her that. Then she texted back saying, it's not on the inside or outside of the window. It's stuck between the glass panes. Strange, isn't it? My sister assured me it wasn't there before because she's really tidy and has cleaned those windows many times. My second thought was, maybe it's just moisture or fog from the recent rain and humidity, especially since summer is almost here. It might have made it look like a handprint trapped between the glass. Looking at the picture for a while, it really does resemble a handprint. Then I started having this strange idea. Maybe someone is checking out the house, but the handprint is on the top window facing downwards. It's like they, or it, pressed their left hand from the outside. I tried to imagine how it would be if I made that handprint myself. It's a really uncomfortable position, especially if you're trying to peek into a door or window from up high, like 6 feet off the ground. I usually try to figure out all the simple reasons for things before jumping to conclusions. Could it be a raccoon, or maybe a person? Or just moisture? I asked her if anything strange had happened out of curiosity. This is what she texted back to me. I was using the treadmill a few months ago at night, when suddenly I felt a very strong tap on my left shoulder. My husband was away, so it couldn't be him. I've removed her husband's name. I think it was likely just a muscle twitch or something, but she was really scared after that. Then she mentioned, and sometimes I hear voices. My husband thinks it's just the neighbors, but when I'm indoors, it really sounds like a man and a woman are on our porch. Like I mentioned, they only had one neighbor. Maybe it could have been the neighbor's voices carrying, but still. I also asked about the baby, and she said sometimes the baby stares into random corners like she's seeing something, but that doesn't seem strange for a 9-month-old to me. There's nothing unusual showing up on the monitors either. I'm going over today after work to see my niece. I meant to remind her to check the carbon monoxide detectors, just to be safe. So I'll bring it up tonight. It's one of those situations where some things are really weird, but others might have a simple explanation.